I haven't really thought of an intro. I'll just have to start speaking and hope that something comes out.
I will probably start getting on my high horse later as well.
Right, okay.
Getting dead loud and abrasive. How is it big on the inside, but it doesn't make any sense? It's a cube inside a... What? No.
Doctor, doctor, give me the news. I got a bad case of loving you.
Hello and welcome to a podcast about Doctor Who. The podcast has quite a misleading title to start off with. It's hosted by a man who absolutely loves Doctor Who, me. And the idea is that I take a guest every episode and I try to find the episode for them. The idea being that there are hundreds upon hundreds of episodes of Doctor Who covering multiple styles and genres. You think there must be an episode for everyone. So this is my attempt to find the right episode for a non-fan. So for episode 1, fucking hell.
Yes.
Okay, put my phone on silent. For episode 1, I'll be putting my phone on silent.
Fucking...
Oh, Jesus. My phone's broken. Right.
This wouldn't happen on a Lex the Dark Zone Stories podcast. Mate. They mute their shit in their shows.
3 months delicate work, and now look at your ham-fisted bun vendor.
So, for episode 1, I have my first Doctor Who hater. His name is... Actually, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hello, everybody. My name is Gavin Spence, and I hate Doctor Who. How's that?
That's good. That's good. And you fill the... you have the right credentials to be a guest on this podcast.
Yeah, that's excellent.
Gav.
Hiya.
Let's start with... what...
Who the fuck do you think you are? Coming on a Doctor Who podcast
and saying that you hate Doctor Who. No, okay, so tell me first of all, what's your general view of Doctor Who? Okay, sorry, that's a bad question. You obviously you don't like Doctor Who. I'm not going to be here to be like, you know, you're wrong. You're wrong. That's like, it's fine. Like I watch a lot of Doctor Who, obviously, from all eras, and it's
shite. You can say it. It's
no,
rubbish.
it's just saying
From start to finish.
that, you know, there are things about it that I love, but there are things about it that I love that I feel are quite specific to my tastes in terms of production style and sometimes the crapness of it. It's the sort of thing that I love, but I would feel a bit, you know, I wouldn't recommend it. I'm not like every time someone says what should I watch in the telly, I'm like, you should watch Doctor Who.
You should watch Doctor Who.
Because it's like, it's not... I mean, right, okay, so we'll start with one of the things you love. You love Transformers, right?
I do love Transformers.
You love Transformers. Now, if you were having an adult conversation with someone and someone said to you, I'm looking for a new TV show to watch, you wouldn't be like...
Well, this is where you're wrong, Richie, because that would immediately be in... Maybe you've heard of Transformers? No, I wouldn't. I totally get. I think that's what happens. Maybe when you get a little older and you become a bit more of a rational human being, and you go, "See, if only they knew how good Doctor Who was." But now you're kind of like, "Well, no, I kind of get it."
I get it. Yeah, like I was watching a bunch of David Tennant episodes while scanning my expense receipts a couple of weeks ago, and sometimes things happen in it. Sometimes, or just in general in any Doctor Who episodes, but sometimes things happen in it where you think, "I'm really glad there are not other people here to see me enjoying this right now."
No, come on.
I don't want to knock it. I'm not knocking it because I do love it. Like, I really, unapologetically love Doctor Who. That's part of the reason I started this podcast, but partly an experiment. This could be a terrible experiment. We'll see how it goes.
There's a good chance. I mean, you've got me on as your first guest. It's not indicative of quality. Do you even like the David Tennant ones?
Yeah.
The one where he like that one where he turns into like a wee Dobby house elf.
Yeah.
And they're all like, Doctor. Even that one.
Yeah.
Good. I mean, not you to shame at all, because God knows if we were sitting here watching an episode of fucking Beast Wars Transformers, when one of them dies and I'm sitting there crying, you'd be like, what is going on?
I know there's been a few times that I've watched Doctor Who with a room full of pals that are just like, you know, it's all right, I'll watch it, but I remember years ago the David Tennant, there was the finale where Rose leaves.
Oh, don't.
And it's very...
Get me started. Not Rose.
It's very emotional, and my girlfriend at the time was also heavily into Doctor Who, and Oh, it was brutal because we were both sitting there in a room full of like all my school pals, all guys, and I'm just like biting my bottom lip because it's the most horrendously emotional thing I've ever watched.
Yeah, I mean, it become even through not particularly enjoying the show or anything, it does seep into your life in some ways because it is such a big thing.
Yeah,
but like. Is that the one where she goes to live with the other doctor in another universe
That's
or something?
when she comes back later and they establish that. It's like the first time she gets sort of sucked into an alternate, like a mirror universe, and
right.
They can't.
They're apart.
Yes, they're apart.
Man. Don't. You'll start me off now.
But yeah, no, okay. So I can't remember the point I was making there.
Well, it's about in terms of like, because I went when you said to us you want to be on the show, and I went sure. And I was like, why would I mean? It's the first I've heard of it, this show, and I was like, is Richie having me on his first episode? Do I have a reputation for not liking Doctor Who?
You do. There's a group of people on my Twitter that
hate you.
That really like. Every time, like, I mean, I again understand the year of the 50th anniversary. That must have been hellish for some people.
Aye,
I must have.
Aye, it was. Thank you, in way of apology.
And like, every time it comes back, when television shows happen, their events, people talk about them on Twitter, and then there's the same ones that are always just like, God, Doctor Who's a load of shite.
Well, in a way, like, because when I went, I was like, I can't hate. Do I hate it? Really?
You're not. I mean, you're not the worst. You're not the worst. But I had to find someone that was a sort of that I could rationally.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm absolutely. If you're talking rational, that's me. No, I went to search my Twitter, and I was like, at GeshGav Doctor Who, and I just did this big, and there was screeds of text, and it was me going basically. I think it was when Matt Smith came onto the scene, and I think I maybe got caught up in it a wee bit,
right?
And I was like, this isn't what I'm used to with Doctor Who, and I was like, oh man, this is alright. And a few times in my timeline I'm like, that was alright, wow, that was actually really good. And then you see it slowly get back up through the timeline as it gets closer to modern day. I was like, that's fucking crap, like that's terrible.
You would make a good Dalek.
So your experience of Doctor Who is mostly new Doctor Who then?
For the most part, I looked into, I think, not to get into our Twitter questions, but someone had said, what's your first exposure to Doctor Who? And I had to look it up because I have this very specific memory of getting a VHS out. And all I can remember is these kind of mannequin-looking people.
Oh, the Autons.
And yes.
There's two, in terms of original series, there's 2 Auton episodes.
I looked it up. It was Spearhead from Space.
Spearhead from Space.
There we go. And I remember...
That's a good one.
But back when, I don't know what age I was, maybe in like 8 or 9, and sitting watching it and going, this is boring. This is pure boring. Nobody turns into a truck. You know what I mean?
I guess like when it comes to classic Doctor Who as well, it was always serialised. Like every episode would have 4 parts, 6 parts, sometimes like 10 parts.
Yeah.
And so the pace of that, especially if you try and watch them all in one go, if you're a child, like as an adult trying to watch them all in one go. I always say that every time I buy a DVD and I sit, well, it's like I'll watch 2, then I'll watch 2 tomorrow, and then I always tan the whole lot. But yeah, like it can be difficult to keep up with. Not difficult to keep up with. It's difficult to kind of just hold on to.
Aye, well, I mean, like as you said when you gave us that DVD to watch, and you're like, don't try and do it all in one. Aye, and I'm glad I didn't. Aye. It's not to go too far ahead of ourselves, but I did find myself after those 2 going like, I probably could, but I want to follow your instructions to the letter because you're the guy about this. I can't. I'm not going against your wishes.
And right, okay. So if your experience is mostly new, then any particular things that stick out as a major criticism for you?
I really like cheesy acting, and I like a lot of really awful films. Like when you ask me about my favourite films, a lot of them are notoriously bad films. Right. Like Howard the Duck nearly made it onto the list.
Right. Okay.
So it's not a problem in that respect. It's just I think it's the fact that I don't think it's remarkable in any way.
Right. Okay.
Like I just don't get the fervour around it. And I can watch it and I'm just bored out of my mind a lot of times. And I shouldn't be. It's like, getting chased by an alien down a corridor. Every episode, that's good. But I just don't understand the...
It's a funny one. Like, I mean, part of the reason I'm doing this as well, it's not part of the reason, there's a little bit of it. Like, part of the reason I'm doing this in the first place is that I'm getting to watch even though I'm not watching the episode with you, I'm getting to watch Doctor Who through someone else's eyes, because when I watch it as well, I'm thinking about you watching it. It's like we watched, me and Danny and Findlay, who I do Video Namaste with, we watched all 4 Star Trek Next Generation films on Saturday in a row.
Lucky boys.
And we're watching Star Trek Generations, and I was powerfully aware that Findlay had never watched any Star Trek TNG. And I was starting to see it from a whole new
It can
angle.
be rough, I can imagine not having seen TNG and having to watch those films.
I know, and having to stop and explain to him what was going on. Although he picked it up, it was actually fine. And then we watched First Contact, and it was great. And then we watched Insurrection, and it was bad. And then it was like, by about 1 a.m, we're watching Star Trek Nemesis, and we all want to die. But anyway,
Just leaning over. Why is Data singing HMS Pinafore? What's going on?
But part of doing this is kind of, because sometimes I think about how much I love Doctor Who, and I can't explain it. Like I can't. It's one of those things. Like, do you know when you love something so much, and you're just like, if someone says to you, "Why do you love it?" and you're like,
It's just really good, man.
it's really difficult to articulate, and I don't know if it's like I've always been into things with shows with like a big, rich, massive history with a lot of lore and all that sort of stuff.
Aye.
But there's a lot of shows like that that can't just be it. And then
There's an intangible thing there that's. I find that exact same thing with Transformers. The fact that I imagine there's a lot less respect for Transformers fans. But yeah, it's just to say, like, what is it you like about this show? And you're just like, it's good.
Aye.
It's really good.
I know it must tap into some, like, if it was just me, if it was just like, if Doctor Who fandom didn't have the reputation it did for everyone just being absolutely mental about it, and it was just me that felt like this, then I would think there must be some sort of personal experience or attachment. But there's none of that, and it's just it's
similar to me though, in terms of like why I don't like it. I don't have a really good answer. It's not like Tom Baker kicked my head in when I was 9. You know, it's not. I don't have a personal grudge against the show. It's just I don't like it, and there's something about it that just really gets my back up. You know, like when you're like, "Oh, I'm going to send you these episodes to watch." I'm going to have to watch some Doctor Who. There's no getting away from it.
But I know a guy who said to me that the reason he didn't like Doctor Who was that when he was a kid, he was at some kind of fair or a show or something, and there was a guy in a Dalek, like a Dalek thing, shell, firing about, but he was stinking. And the guy, he says the odour was so strong that now every time I see Doctor Who, I think of this man's body odour, and I just can't even abide it. I can't deal with it.
Should have had him on. Instead of me just going, I don't like it. It's rubbish.
We will explain later.
The way that we did this is that I wrote some questions, they're not very good questions, in order to try and figure out what your episode is. So my idea is that you hate Doctor Who, and I'm like, there's so much Doctor Who, and there's so many different types of stories, that there has to be something. There has to be an episode you might just enjoy.
Okay.
So I asked you some questions. Sorry, I'm trying to load
And
up.
I mean, not to put a spoiler on this, I did almost enjoy it.
Okay, good. First question I asked you, top 5 films. You said I went for actual favourites versus, objectively good films, which is good because I wanted to know about you rather than
I'm not
what
going
films you thought were great. So you said The Princess Bride, Conan the Barbarian, Westworld, Transformers the movie, and Masters of the Universe.
Yeah. It's actually quite embarrassing when you hear it out loud.
No, not at all.
It's actually
not at all.
Almost sickening.
Like Westworld is I love Westworld.
It's a cracking film.
And Princess Bride again, Conan. Yeah, these are all, and they're a good start as well. I asked you your favourite book, and then you said House of Leaves. Never read it.
That's kind of horror, unsettling.
Okay.
Madness trip.
I did jump onto the Wikipedia to see if I could get some. There's a bit of a mystery to it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right, let's just say that I took that. And then number 3, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the silliest, 1 being the most serious, how silly do you like your genre television? This was obviously difficult for you because you've put your top 5 shows. I asked Gavy's top 5 shows, and I think he was a bit You just named 5 shows, didn't you?
I did
Well, no, right. So TNG, Star Trek: The Next Generation. Sorry.
Thank you.
Battlestar Galactica, Transformers, obviously, House of Cards, and Game of Thrones.
Those last 2 ones were kind of thrown in at the last moment where I couldn't think. But I do enjoy those shows.
That's fine. Having 3 biggies in there, that's I can work with that. So you said, as it depends on my mood and the show itself. Love the daftness of Next Generation and the grim sour-faced Battlestar Galactica. In the end, I'm going to say 7. So that's good. That's also good for going into Doctor Who.
Mm-hmm.
I said aliens or mad scientists. You said mad scientists. And how tolerable are you of dodgy creature costumes? You said very tolerable.
Oh yes, absolutely. I love a really shitty costume.
So I asked you question 5, how tolerable of you of black and white film / TV? You said very tolerable.
Very tolerable.
Very tolerable. Does that mean you really like? It's such a stupid question. It is a stupid question. Like, nobody's going to be like, unless I'm going to get like, I remember one of my pals said that his mum was like, wouldn't watch black and white TVs, wouldn't watch black and white films on her TV because she paid for a colour license.
Jeez, really?
Nobody like that is ever going to be on the show, so I need to like.
Well, it is a weird thing to ask, but in terms of like, I would never say I'm not watching that because it's black and white.
Aye.
I'm not actively going, black and white films are better, you know?
No, I know.
I had a friend in college who said that all foreign films are better because he's never seen a bad one.
Right.
And you're like, well, it's because like the cream of the crop comes over here.
Aye.
You know, they don't send Howard the Duck, like the Korean Howard the Duck doesn't come over here, you know?
That sounds pretty good, to be honest.
I wouldn't mind watching Korean Howard the Duck.
Synths or orchestras, you've said synths. That's a funny one. Like, I feel like a lot of people are going to say synths, but like some of the synth soundtracks in old Doctor Who are like, when you say to someone like a synth soundtrack now, you think of like something really cool. Synth soundtracks in old Doctor Who are just like, what is happening? Is someone just falling onto the machine and it's just making these noises?
Just wanking over a theremin. Well, again, with the thing, like, I like a nice orchestrated score and stuff. But then when you say like synths, I'm thinking like John Carpenter sort of.
Aye.
You know, that's what my mind goes to.
Remind me to send you the Sea Devil soundtrack later. Okay, and then I asked you, is there a particular Doctor you like? And you basically said, Tom Baker looks mental, so him.
He does look mental.
He does. He's very, yeah.
Is Tom Baker alright? That's one of the things I meant to. Is he alright?
What do you mean, like, mentally, or is he
the whole shebang? Did they have any famously have any issues?
Well, no, I don't think so, but he was a pain in the arse.
Right.
I get that impression. He was good. Like the good thing about there's a lot. All the actors really did this, but he really threw himself into the part, and he was the Doctor.
Yeah.
And like when kids saw him and stuff, he was the Doctor, and you know. But I get the impression that to work with, he was like in this episode we're about to talk to, he was always sort of outspoken about the script and then suggesting really daft things that we should do to throw in, and he, like, quite sometimes like one of his ideas would make it into the show because it was quite good, but he was always doing things like looking down the camera and all that sort of stuff.
Okay.
He was a bit mental.
Would you like a jelly baby?
Shut up!
Well, simple enough, thank you, would have been sufficient.
So I decided, based on some of the information that you give me, that so you like robots.
I do like robots.
You like robots. I mean, most classic Doctor Who is this, but you'd like a good sort of character-based story. Like you know, Next Generation wasn't action-based; it was very character-based. There was a lot of good dialogue and stuff like that. So that's a good start. You've got like Westworld in there, killer robots. So I've decided.
An intuitive leap.
Partially because of these points and partially because it's a really good episode, I decided to give you Robots to Death to watch. So I sent you a copy of the DVD.
Thank you.
And I've allowed you to keep that because I've now bought the special edition.
Appreciate it. I did see you immediately once you sent that, and I got, so this is yours to keep, and then I saw you on Twitter like, so there's something wrong with the disc or something that you got? Or,
yeah. There was the because it comes in a box set.
Yeah.
The special edition's a box set. You had to buy 2 others with it, and the sleeves were all out of alignment.
Oh.
Before we get into this, I asked the boys from another Doctor Who podcast called On the Time Lash, which I used to sometime. I say used to. I've been on it twice.
Okay.
And those guys are experts. They're like.
Wait a minute. So what are you?
I'm sort of like a prosumer.
Okay.
I got that term from freelancing. No, I love it, but like these guys, some of the shit that these guys pull out is quite good. So anyway, I'm going to play back what they thought of my decision now.
Hello, Richie. Hello, Gav. I guess. Are we? I hope you've given us a suitably austere title. You know, as you've asked for our contribution, like either the Gods of Ragnarok or the High Council.
We are what we are, Mark. It's us, Ben and Mark, the Lash Lads, from
On the Time Lash,
#1 Doctor Who podcast that we do on
yes.
On the Time Lash.
So I've just read what you've sent me. So I believe Gav's quite into Star Trek Next Generation and Battlestar Galactica and Westworld, and you've decided as his first Doctor Who to convince him that he doesn't hate Doctor Who.
Yeah.
Is Robots of Death? What do you think about that, Ben? Do you think that's accurate? Do you think that's a good choice?
I think there's some groundwork already done, that he's already a genre fan. And I think that I'd love Robots of Death.
Oh, it's great. I mean, it's a great story.
It's not just a great fit for the things that you like. I think it's a great Doctor Who story for you to watch in the first place. It has a lot of things in it. It's Doctor Who versus things you like.
Yeah.
In a really great meshing of those two things. It's good Doctor Who.
Yeah, definitely. And also it's really high on any poll of, the greatest Doctor Who stories of all time.
Yeah.
So I think that's always a good place.
Although what we're essentially, are we overselling it? Are we going to look like absolute chumps by the end of this when he turns around and goes, nah, it was shit? And
should we just maybe get ahead of the curve?
It's shit.
It's shit.
You don't believe for a minute they're actually robots. They look like guys in Oriental costumes with plastic masks on. It's shit. 1970s shit.
Cheers, I hope you enjoyed the podcast.
There we go.
They sound like a good bunch of lads.
I can't tell if they're one of the things that they do on the Time Lash is that they record it in a pub.
So they're on the lash.
So they're on the lash.
I get it.
Yep. So there you go. That's what they thought of my choice.
Thanks to the fucking Council of Ragnarok or whatever they said. I guess.
The Council of Ragnarok. The Council Estate of Ragnarok.
Scan commencing now.
There was a Vox therapist in Caldor City, specially programmed, equipped with vibro-digit, subcutaneous stimulators, the lot. You know what happened, Borg? Its first client wanted treatment for a stiff elbow. The Vox therapist felt carefully all round the joint, and then suddenly just twisted his arm off at the shoulder. Shumph! All over in 2 seconds.
I've never heard that.
Caldor City.
What was the reason?
Reason? It was haywire. I wouldn't let a robot work on me, not for all the Zelenite in this ship.
Shut up, Chubb. Thank you, V16. A Vok-class robot has over 1 million multi-level constrainers in its circuitry. All of them would have to malfunction before it could perform such an action.
Your trouble, Dask. You're taking the magic out of life.
They go wrong, my friend. It's been known.
Only where there's an error in programming. Each case on
This
record.
was a case. Tore his arm off.
Let me give you a couple of stats about Robots of Death.
Yes.
Robots of Death is the 5th story in season 14 of Doctor Who. It was transmitted between the 29th of January and the 19th of February in 1977. It was written by Chris Boucher, who had previously written another story called Face of Evil. None of this means anything to you.
Nope.
And it was directed by a fellow named Michael Bryant, who had directed several Doctor Who stories before. Some really good ones as well. So, just to start off with, initially, when you started watching a 1977 episode of Doctor Who, what happened?
I was trying to take it as, again, trying to be as open-minded as I possibly could be about it. I trust in you.
Okay.
I thought Robots of Death sounds good.
Got a good title.
Yep, I liked the look of the robots off the front cover.
Yeah.
Assumed that those were the Robots of Death.
Yeah. The robots in Robots of Death, I quite like them because the like a lot of work has gone into the kind of background of what's. This is the great thing about Doctor Who is that they've got these individual stories and a bunch of characters that you've just met for the first time and you're never going to meet them again.
Yeah.
And they do a lot of world building when you hear about like the creative decisions about why they design robots like that, they're there as servants on a kind of quite a rich culture. But anyway, sorry, carry on.
Oh no, so I mean I do kind of like that shaky, like cheap as hell looking set that's going on. I liked the first thing I really liked was you see the sort of the kind of harvester they're on. Yep. From the outside shots.
The model shots, yeah.
Like they're really cool.
Yeah.
Like there's something about that you don't get things like that anymore.
No. Yeah, it's interesting when you go back to an episode like that, especially when it comes to sci-fi. Like sci-fi television, even sci-fi television at the time, like the 60s were producing a lot of genre television. I mean, America was making things like Star Trek and even like shows like the Avengers and all that sort of stuff. They're all incredibly well produced, always shot on film and all that sort of stuff. Whereas, and then you sort of you jump to something like Doctor Who and you realise that the rate that they were pumping out episodes.
Yeah, I mean,
it's almost like a sci-fi soap.
Yeah, it felt quite. Yeah, it did have a kind of soapy feel to it, and it doesn't feel knocked together. It's not like they bashed out in a weekend or anything. But there's that feel to it that like it was all very off the cuff, almost.
Yeah, I mean the other thing, the Robots of Death, I think it was there to replace another story, but because they could only shoot in a studio, they needed a kind of claustrophobic set, and so Robots of Death it's not unusual, but it stands out in the sense that it's a completely studio based story. There's and they did that thing that the 60s and 70s and actually 80s telly did, where they shot exterior stuff all in film. So that the texture and the style and everything would change, but then all the studio stuff, you're talking multicams, and it's got a completely different shooting style. So I think Robots of Death is a really good is a really good example of studio stuff because they've written a really great script to go with it. But anyway, sorry, I feel like I'm interrupting you.
Not in a lot of ways. I'm feeling like like I'm just enjoying someone who knows what they're talking about talking about it.
Okay.
One of the things in pretty early on, it hits you that this is like a murder mystery. Yeah, which I really like as well. I like a lot of murder mystery stuff. So getting to like who done it kind of deal, I was really into at that point. I'd totally put it down as someone who it wasn't. Right. They switched it on me.
I mean, what were your expectations of that? Like, because the story's called Robots of Death.
Yeah.
Was your expectation not just like something's happened, like the robots are pissed off?
Aye, the robots, there's some issue with
old story, because it's like you forget as well when you're watching old sci-fi that a lot of the tropes and a lot of the things that you're now just like like they weren't like that at the time.
Yeah, it was new back then.
So when they don't follow that trope, it surprises you in a kind of pleasant way, I think.
I certainly didn't, not to get ahead of ourselves in the story or anything, but I didn't see until they do set it up in like episode 3, the sort of what's happening. Yeah. But so you're kind of not blown away entirely. Yeah. But certainly I didn't expect that to be the culprit was not who I expected it to be, which again is what makes a really good murder mystery.
Yeah, totally. So stylistically, you were quite into the production style.
Yeah, I really liked I liked the sets. I liked the costumes that everyone was in, especially what you call the main, like the captain. I've got his name down here somewhere.
Commander
Ivanov.
He's
good. Like proper like Ming the Merciless kind of look to him. Looks like he's got proper like golden Virginia breath. Like, and I can't remember I wish I'd wrote down the line, but there's an amazing point at one. A few times it breaks. I had to look into the actor to make sure he was Scottish because there's times where
Is he Scottish?
It breaks down at one point. He's just like, "Oh, Doctor Who, what's going on?" And I was like, "Why is he suddenly Scottish?" So I had to look him up, and yeah, he's from Glasgow.
And who are you? I'm the Doctor. I assume you're in command here. Yes. What are you doing here? Just standing here talking to you. I should be very careful if I were you. No doubt you would. What are you doing on this mine? Well, we're travelers. We came here by accident. Oh, I see. 100 million square miles of uncharted desert and you just stumbled across us? Well, it's a small world. Yeah. I suppose it's also a coincidence that as soon as you two arrive, 3 of our people are killed. Well? Oh, sorry, I thought it was a rhetorical question. Yes, it's just a coincidence.
I didn't even...
Oh, bringing some facts to this show.
Nice work.
Those Time Lash guys. Or whatever they're called.
Do you know what, actually, the last time I was on the Time Lash,
yeah,
we discussed robots at death. But I've forgotten everything. Maybe it's because I had a couple of drinks.
I really hope he's from Glasgow now.
But we didn't even discuss that. We didn't.
A fresh set of eyes, that's what's happened here today.
Yeah. No, totally. Commander, is it Ivanov?
I've got a feeling it's Ivanov.
I've written it down here, Ivanov.
Yeah.
I'm really this is one of the problems I do have sometimes with Classic Who, is following everyone's names. It's not with Classic, it's TV in general. When a drama has when people are referring to characters that aren't on screen at the time, I'm like, who's that?
Yeah, which
again?
one is that? Especially as you say that you're getting these characters for 4 episodes and you'll never see them again.
Aye.
So like you don't feel necessarily you need to.
And they've got really unusual names as well. Like one of them's called Chubb. Zilda, Borg, Twos, Dask, and Pool.
Pool, man. Oh, Pool's incredible.
It's good.
Talk about just your classic ham overacting.
I know.
Goon show. I loved it.
I know. Yeah, we can come to that in a bit. So, we start the story, we introduce the characters. It does that. It does a very good. It does a lot of world building. I think it's really great. Like you get a couple of lines of dialogue from characters, and you get a very strong idea of their background, like just instantly.
Yeah.
Like Zilda, I think it is. Ivanov says a line to Zilda about her family not being as rich as they used to be.
Yes.
And they just say that it's a founding family. So you think so this culture had these important families, and you know, there's this whole,
without going into too much detail.
Yeah. And it instantly, like, just daft wee lines like that really, like, instantly tells you what's going on, what kind of culture it is and everything. In fact, I think there might be books, or there might be a novel that's based on the planet. But it's this thing, like...
And I haven't read it. What?
But it's the sort of thing that I would like when it comes to Doctor Who spin-off media that doesn't involve the Doctor. I just don't.
No books, no audio tapes.
There's a lot of audio, but no. Anyway, I'm not going to get into that. So then we get our first scene with the Doctor and Leela. So this is kind of your introduction to this is your first Doctor Who, classic Doctor Who.
Yes.
Sorry, this is your first classic Doctor Who as an adult,
as a grown man.
Human. And you've got Leela and the Doctor in the TARDIS.
Yeah. Tom Baker is so weird and like otherworldly. I wasn't expecting it because you get like when you're watching like modern ones and they're all kind of acting kooky and weird, but I don't feel like he's putting it on. In a way, obviously he's playing a part, but I feel that he's like there's something unhinged about Tom Baker that I like. It is like you can imagine someone's like he's an alien. I'd be like, fair enough. I really liked him.
Aye.
You feel like you can have a laugh with Tom Baker as the Doctor. He's cutting about the shit, pocket munching the entire time, which I didn't know why he's eating jelly babies.
Jelly babies is a whole Fourth Doctor thing. That's like that's the big.
I didn't know that there was a big thing. I was talking to one of my mates. He's like, he's eating jelly babies. He's like, aye, that's what he does. It's like, that's a great character point, isn't it?
I know. It probably makes me a bad Doctor Who fan, but I don't know how the jelly babies thing came about.
No,
if it was an improvisation thing but yeah, no, like Tom Baker is obviously he is for a lot of people he is the Doctor. He's also the longest running. He's done it for the longest amount of time, but a lot of what modern Doctor Who takes. A lot of stuff that he does. I mean, I think a lot of the modern Doctors take stuff from every one of them, but and then kind of make it their own. But yeah, when he came in, it was you just come from John Pertwee. Now I love John Pertwee. I love Third Doctor quite a lot. But yeah, you're right. It's the big mad hair and the bohemian look and
the teeth.
The teeth.
Oh my God! There's a moment like I think it's after the first cliffhanger, sort of when he's in the hopper and it's all raining down on him, and he gets out and he gets this huge smile, and it's so good. And I was just like, man, he is wild. I love it.
No, his smile is so good as well. No, you're right. And he's not. Would you say he was a handsome man?
I'd say he'd probably be a handsome silhouette,
right?
But when you see up close and personal, like he feels like he's quite dangerous. Do you not think?
Aye, no, he has that.
Like when there's moments like he doesn't like Doctor Who. To my knowledge, Doctor Who doesn't really get in fights.
No.
Or anything like that. But there's some struggles at one point, and you think Tom Baker would destroy you.
He's like a tall man,
a big fella, and when he's like. At that moment, I don't think there was any acting going on there. I think Tom Baker just went into his savage mode and just grabbed the guy.
No, you're right. There's a whole funny sort of relationship with the Doctor and violence, because obviously nowadays, like, it's a strict. He is non-violent. He's a pacifist, and he is through the whole series. He is, but the Third Doctor did a lot of judo chopping and stuff like that.
Right. Okay.
And obviously there are the struggles and stuff. Where there's,
it's just kind of pushing and pulling a wee bit. Bit of play fighting. But that's like even like that where the stuff. I had completely no idea. Like when it came to like Leela, I'm like, who's this? Is she she's like a cave woman or?
Oh, do you mean in the sense that what's her role? You mean about companions, don't you?
Oh no, yeah,
yeah. So, but yeah, all right. Do you mean where did she come from?
Yeah,
who is she? So Leela is like she'd just come from the previous episode. So the companions previous, like you had like Sarah Jane and Philip Hinchcliffe wanted to bring in he was the producer at the time. He wanted to bring in a sort of quite a much stronger, like someone who's like the role of the companion always seemed to be the person who gets in trouble.
Okay.
And needs to be saved and all that stuff. But Leela's more, she's action woman.
Yeah.
But the whole cave woman thing, she so she's a sort of descent. She's in a tribe. She came from a tribe who'd descended from this crashed survey team that had landed on that crashed on this planet, and that had regressed into a kind of slightly more tribal mode.
Right.
So she was part of this tribe, and she ended up coming along with the Doctor.
Okay.
So all the way through the series, it's kind of weird. So she doesn't have the weird, like, she does. I mean, she does a little bit of, she asks questions in a really kind of naive, simple way, but she doesn't take any shit.
No, she was very capable.
Yeah.
And you don't expect. I guess it's just we don't give the people in decades by that much credit when it comes to stuff like that. You're like, oh, she actually could hold her own there. Well done, hen. You're just
totally.
It's just it's a very strange point, and of course, Richie, something for the dads. Huh?
God, see, every time they talk about companions from old Doctor Who, they're always prefixed with dad favourite.
Yeah, something for the dads.
You don't see it so much these days, but you used to see it a lot, like dad favourite Sarah Jane.
God, come on, R.I.P.
Waiting for Match of the Day to come on.
I don't understand what's happening. Robots can't harm humans. It's the first principle. The second principle is that humans can't harm robots. I know, I've tried, and they don't bleed.
Okay, so you did one episode. You did two episodes in a row. You bombed through them quite easily, didn't you?
2 days, 2 episodes a day. I think it's because it's the first episode that ends in the cliffhanger when he gets into the hopper.
Aye, that's right.
Yeah, so I was like, shit, how's he going to survive a hopper? This master of time and space.
My favourite thing about that scene is him going in with the wee ever ready dad torch.
Yeah, that's really good. And that's a moment where it cuts to film.
Aye.
And
of course, yeah.
Because I was like, I wasn't expecting that, Let's just go somewhere on location to shoot inside a hopper.
Inside a hopper, Yeah, so you did 2 episodes in a row. How did, when you got to the end of episode 2, how were you feeling?
I could have gone on, I think.
Yeah.
It was just, things going on in the house. I've got a busy lifestyle.
Okay.
I've got a lot on.
Aye.
Richie. And I thought, I'll just take your advice on it. And I'll just maybe... Because you don't know, maybe I would watch the other 2 and be like, I shouldn't have rushed it. I got bored.
That's just what I advise you to do. There's probably listeners that have a completely different opinion on it.
Shouting right now.
I remember, they used to... sometimes you get them on... I don't know if it's when you got them on tape, but they used to do, for the American releases, they would do, a movie cut.
Right, okay.
where like the whole episode would just keep going
Right.
until it came to an end. And then the episodes are only 25 minutes long, so 4 episodes is like, it's an hour and a half.
Yeah.
And I almost found it a bit much.
Yeah.
To cope with.
I think it's good that they're nice little 25-minute
breaks.
chunks. Yeah, I think that's good. Like I think I am more inclined to try more stuff.
Mm-hmm.
If I was going to try more stuff, that it's in little chunks.
Aye.
Because at least I can get a taste for it and go, I don't like it.
I mean, it's like some of my favourite episodes are like 10 parts long as well. It's just, you wouldn't.
No, I wouldn't have.
Like, I wouldn't.
Yeah. I would have read the Wikipedia. Oh, it was cracking. Really good.
I know. There's always like, or if you look at your phone and you suddenly realise you've missed a really important line of dialogue. It's like, well, suddenly everyone's doing something completely different.
Well, I kind of wondered a wee bit about Leela, because I was like, everyone seems just quite cool with the fact that she's just a cave woman. Clearly. They're all in like their decadence.
Do you know, I never even considered that.
And they're all just like,
you're a bit mental, aren't you?
Aye. She's just like, I'll stab yous. I forgot, because there's a moment where she really, I can't remember the exact threat, but she gets up close and personal with somebody at one point, and she makes a really good threat to them. It was like, it's not like I will fucking end you or something like that. It wasn't like that. But there's something I was like, she's like pretty crazy.
I will cripple you.
Yes.
Something like that.
It's along those lines. Yeah, I remember being like, whoa. That's a bit
and
much.
then doesn't the guy slap her and she kicks him?
Although for all that, when there's a point where she's talking to the doctor's busy doing something, and she's talking away, and he's like, oh, do you have to talk so much? And she's like, oh, I'm sorry.
I do like that moment.
And you're just
it's kind of like I do like the moments where the doctor gets a bit short, because he's like, and that's the kind of thing I love about the Peter Capaldi's Doctor as well, is they've brought in a wee bit of that back, because like when they brought it, obviously Christopher Eccleston was kind of war-torn, angry Doctor,
right?
And then you got David Tennant, who was cuddly, everyone's friend Doctor, and they kind of ran with that for a bit with Matt Smith as well. But now that Peter Capaldi's in, he's doing the grumpy Doctor again, and it's kind of, I kind of like it.
Yeah, I think it adds a little bit. It can't just be all nice pally Doctor Who all the time.
I
mean,
think
it's life and death.
It's good because it's just having those moments where, like, obviously he's a super intelligent man.
Yeah.
And having to explain things all the time, he's just going to get frustrated and a bit short all the time. But that's really interesting. Like, I never even considered that before. That like, not even her, but him as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like, when people just been like, wait, where did you come from?
Aye. At no point,
it's like I landed in your cupboard.
All right, that's that. I think it's when they find them. Obviously, they are kind of made the scapegoats for the killings of these robots of death.
Yeah.
And everyone's just like, found two folk. They're the killers, right? I mean, hands washed of that.
Aye.
You're like, you are all taking this in stride. Does this happen a lot? Is there a lot of murder and people appearing out of nowhere, and that's
some of our co-workers have died brutally, and 2 people have appeared in the cupboard. So I mean, that must be it.
Well, thank God.
Thank God. Dealt with. Let's go back to picking up sand
because there's stuff in it or something. Aye. But even the Doctor's perspective of bringing. I mean, I know she's like, she is fairly useless, and like when it comes to the fighting part, she's like, don't come any closer, and she does this really weak like swing at the guy, and the guy grabs her, no bother. But you're like, to the Doctor in storyline in canon, she's like a savage cave woman with a big machete, and he's like, come on with, and I'll take you to this like decadent ship where they're all dead soft, and like they're letting the robots do all the work and all that. Let's see how you get on. And then he's like, will you calm down? So that's a bit of a cheek on his part.
Aye. No, that's a good point. I'd never even thought about that.
Wonder where we are.
You mean you don't know?
Well, not precisely, no.
You mean you can't control this machine?
Well, of course I can control it. 9 times out of 10. Well, 7 times out of 10. 5 times, look. Never mind, let's see where we are. You won't need that.
How do you know?
I never carry weapons. If people see you mean them no harm, they never hurt you. 9 times out of 10.
So you did episode 3 and 4 back to back?
Did episode 3 and 4 back to back, yes.
Okay, so episode, like, this is the thing about, like, classic Doctor Who, the serials, is they made, I mean, like the reason for shooting serials that are 4 episodes long, it's a cost thing. It means you can get 4 weeks of television and you only have to build, like, 4 sets or something.
Yeah.
And, you know, and it is great, but it creates a lot of challenges for the writing. And sometimes it causes some really inventive and some really great kind of plot twists, and sometimes it falls completely flat on its arse. But I think Robots to Death, it's a good one because it's like I can't remember if it's episode 2 or 3. This is really good. It's going really well. But when they introduced the idea of so they've got the robot classes, right? And at the bottom of the robot classes, you've got the dumb robots. Yeah. And it's revealed that one of the dumb robots... I think it's episode 2. Yeah. One of the dumb robots can speak. It reveals itself to Leela. And then it kind of... You just have that little moment, it goes away again, and then it comes back later on. Yeah. Because you're like, why? And then, you know, obviously we discover that the robot's been placed there by the mining company. There's another agent on board as well with him, and they're looking for this nutter who supposedly grew up with robots. Yeah. And he might be trying to start a robot revolution. And you're like, okay. So
that's when it starts to, you start to be like...
It starts to all come together, but it's nice how they kind of introduce it around a bit there. How did you get on with episode 3?
I was getting into it, I'll be honest. The good thing, the weird thing with like murder mystery stuff is most of the time they try and give everybody a motive. Yeah. So everyone's like, well, it could be them because of this. But they didn't really, a lot of them just seem to be like, it could be them because they're really bad people. You know, like there were a few different motives here and there, but mostly it was just like, it could have been them because they just want money. Or it could be them, you know, just because they're a bit of an arsehole. You know, it's just like...
There's a lot of Doctor Who, like, he's evil. That's why he wants to do it. It's because he's evil.
Yeah,
it's the motivation. Whole thing, like the Master. It's like, why are you doing this? It's because I'm evil.
Yeah. I mean, it's as good a reason as any, I suppose.
No,
I mean, there are just bad bastards out there.
No, that's true.
Myself included. But I think that, like, it just seemed like in all murder mysteries you have, like, you know, this motive set up, but for most of them on the ship, or most of them, it was, and they're also getting killed at such a rate that you weren't able at any point to be like, well, it could be, no, it's not him, he's dead. You know, like, oh, no, actually, maybe it's that, oh no, sorry, he's been strangled. You know,
I don't know, because they set up the red herring with the captain, don't they? The commander, sorry, because so Zilda's there, the rich woman, she dies pretty early on as well, but she's there because her brother, the commander allowed her brother to die, so she sort of thinks of him as a bit of a murderer.
Yeah, it could be her,
and he's he's an arsehole. He's placed it, like, he's an arsehole, so there's obviously something. Yeah,
he could be behind it because he's an arsehole. Yeah, and it's the same with the boy Poole. Yeah, because he's just so, like, throughout the whole thing, he's so dodgy, and he's like, I'm your pal, and you're like, it must be him.
And then he locks Leela in the room. But the funny thing is I think it's episode 3 where they reveal that there's a secret person in a secret lab controlling the robots. Yeah. And they put a weird effect on his face, and they're like, I don't know if it was someone's intent to be like, right, we're going to put the weird effect on his face so that the viewer still can't tell who it is. Yeah. But it's like he's got very distinctive eyes. Yeah. And there's no amount of whispering that's going to hide that.
Yeah, it's very strange. I thought, like, as soon as you're like, right, it's him. And I thought, that's such an odd choice, because they could have done anything. They could have had static, you know, but they just basically showed you them. Like,
but I mean, like, this gets back to one of the things about classic Doctor Who is that so I watched that on my TV in the house. My TV, I watched it on a 32-inch TV,
right, showing off, bragging.
And the thing about TVs in 1977, they were really wee. Like, when you look at classic Doctor Who, like, you're sitting watching it, sometimes you're watching it on like a 46-inch TV. It's like nobody had like, when they were making Doctor Who in the 70s, they would thought, like, this is going to go out in the telly, and they didn't even get repeated. They just went out and then they never appeared again. And you would think that, and that's that. It's like it's disposable telly. And then you're sitting years later, you're watching it, on a 46-inch TV, and you're like, Christ, that looks a bit...
it's a bit ropey, isn't it? Is there not precedent for them losing episodes?
There's definitely there's still a lot of missing episodes. I mean, this is obviously it's a sore point for a lot of Doctor Who fans, but
I'm sure they'll go over it.
Like way back in the 60s when the BBC filmed stuff, they would wipe, because tape stock wasn't expensive, they would wipe the tapes and use them again. But another thing they did is they would transfer them onto film and then sell them for syndication.
Right.
So frequently the way an old episode of Doctor Who will turn up will be in some weird place or in a collector's loft, or because people keep film. People like to collect film. Like, you know, a couple of years ago, two complete stories were found in the back cupboard of a Nigerian tele station.
Wow.
Which is mental.
That is
like,
crazy.
It's mental that the episodes can still pop up after, you know,
that
nearly
is crazy.
50 years.
I imagine that must be very exciting as a fan base as well, to be like, there's Doctor Who you haven't seen.
Aye, and it's here.
Yeah, and here it is.
I know. It's a sore point for me, because like my favourite era for Doctor Who's I love the Second Doctor.
Okay.
And his ones are like the most sought after. There's very few of them complete.
I was going to ask you who your favourite Doctor was.
It's two. But yeah, no. So yeah, no. It's like
you said that with a really defeated.
I know. No,
it's two.
It's two. But yeah, no. It's just, it was disposable telly. It was never meant to be. You know, there was never meant to be someone podcasting about it 30, 40 years later. You know,
look at us now.
Look at us now. Can you imagine going back in time to the 70s and being like, look, I recorded this podcast.
Yeah. And
they'd be like, you what? Showing them your phone.
I wonder how that does affect people doing TV these days, whether they know, because now you know you've got a legacy almost. Like that's, you know, when they're making my favourite TV shows like House of Cards. I think this is going to be around forever.
Aye.
You know, people are going to be able to watch this in 500 years.
I think. Well, I mean, I think it's a big effect on TV, because I think a lot of bigger writers are moving to TV because they have more of they have a larger canvas. But I think there's a lot more creative freedom in TV, because obviously the big expensive films are like they're written the way they are. I mean, there's obviously. I mean, don't get me wrong. Films are films. I love films, but yeah, with TV, I think. Yeah, you are right. And it must be a whole other world. It's moving more and more towards the cinematic. We don't have to. Everyone knows this. But I think since the 90s, like more and more film stars appearing in TV shows and stuff like that. And I think it's for that reason. Like telly is not disposable anymore, because it's
no. But do you think that had an effect on Doctor Who when they were making it back then and going? Because there is a blasé kind of feel to it in terms of like, let's just get it done. You can imagine them just all being like, fucking go, just get it done. Who cares? It's for Wayne's.
I know. That's an interesting one. Like, I wonder what they were thinking as they were doing it, because obviously it was massive. It was massive. You know, there was the viewing figures for episodes of Doctor Who at that point were higher than anything now, and well, it's because there was less to watch, obviously, and less to do. Yeah. But so I mean, they're obviously taking pride in it, and like there's a definite. A lot of work went into it and a lot of effort, and like you can tell Robots of Death is a good example of that, because it's just like Robots of Death has got a lot of that stuff where you're just like, why did you even bother with that's amazing, why did you bother even doing that? But it's
bother giving them those tinfoil shoes.
But there's a story about the tinfoil shoes and the thing, because they put so much effort into making the costume, and the director came in and was like, I've got to get a lot of shots of feet, right? And they're like, are you? The designers are like, so this is maybe an example of that. The designers are like, are you joking? So they just had to quickly wrap some.
Yeah, wow. It's weird though, because like when we're talking about like things like Doctor Who, like they're being worked on, like we love them now, you love them now. I couldn't care less. But no, the idea that you think that the things you love, the people that were making them at the time had that love, but they don't necessarily. Like, when I'm a big also fan of like a lot of 80s properties like Masters of the Universe, and when you do see documentaries, or I get a lot of books about like the art behind them, and the artists there are always interviews with them, and they're always like, what's your favourite character? And they'll always be like, I don't fucking know, like He-Man. Like, to them it's a job, you know, and then, and once it's done, and they don't think about it again. Like guys who wrote comics, and they'd be like, what would you think was your best storyline? And they'd be like, I'll be honest with you, I don't consider any of them good. You know, like, I'd wonder how much of that is in like things like that back then.
No, well, I mean, like, it's interesting watching the special features on the DVD. Those get people in to interview them, and I do, again, I find myself wondering, like, how much have they had to be refreshed on what happened?
Yeah,
because it's like,
for sure. Right.
You're talking about interviewing someone in 2000 and it's now 2016, but probably a few years ago. But anyway, around 2010, about something he did in 1977.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I couldn't tell you what I was doing. So I mean that kind of says that it was a big moment for them, because they're part of somebody's childhood. They're part of someone's personal history, and that's got to be something. And the funny thing about Doctor Who, I think back then, is that you watched it, and then as you went on, the story probably got better in your memory and it looked better.
Yeah.
And then all the DVDs came out, and you were like, oh.
But that's the thing I like.
Yeah. But no, I know what you mean. I think it's interesting when you see people talking about stuff like that, and you're just like, I mean, you can tell that they probably enjoyed working on it, and it was an exciting thing for them to do. But it's like, it was a job.
Yeah, but they'll finish that and went on to do like The Bill or something like that, you know, or some other TV show.
Totally.
Like, I remember seeing Alan Oppenheimer, who is the voice of Skeletor from He-Man, doing an interview, and he's like, can you do the Skeletor voice? And he was like, oh, it was like this, and he was like, I'll get you, what was his name? He-Man. And it was so heartbreaking, because like, if Skeletor can't remember He-Man's name?
Yeah.
Like, I love this stuff, you know, but it was heartbreaking. So I wonder, I'd like to see your heart broken in a similar way. That's all.
Just wanted
that's all.
Aye. I don't think I've had a moment like that with Doctor Who yet. There must be something. If anyone's listening, find the moment that'll break my heart and send it to me, please.
That's one of the most Richie things I've ever heard.
Okay, so I'm gonna bring talking about robots to death to a close, I think. So by the time you got to the end of episode 4, there's that, like, so you've essentially watched a film's worth of studio television and folk running up and down corridors. How were you feeling towards the end? What was happening?
I was just quite like, once you do the reveal, I felt that towards the end they must have been like, what time is it? And like, we've got 8 minutes to finish this entire story. Right, come on, hurry up.
Right, okay.
Get that laser into his brain. It was just, I felt that the ending was, because I was quite into it, and I was like, oh, I'm liking just how schlocky it is, and it was quite loose, and. What I really liked was the big plan with the helium. It's so good. I thought it was really clever. Like,
it is. No, you're right. It is.
I was super like the control. He controls the robots with the voice. So you go in the cupboard, Leela, with this canister of helium, and then his voice will go up,
and they won't recognise his voice.
They won't recognise his voice, but mine won't.
That is interesting, and I wonder if that's like, because the thing they like to do in Doctor Who was slip in education every now and again.
Right.
And I don't know if that was part of it, or if it was just like, hey, that'll be a good way to end this story.
It's not. I thought it was really clever and funny as well. Like, I don't know how if it was meant to have that comedic impact, because I mean, somebody on helium is funny.
I know, he's doing his big dramatic death, and he's got a high pitched voice. Yeah.
It's not the most dignified way to go out, really. But yeah, I just thought it's like something I'd never seen before.
Big needle in the back of the head as well.
And a big needle.
I mean, even though it was robots, I was like, ooh.
How sad is it for that?
Oh, when D84 dies.
Oh my! I had a real connection to that robot, which I didn't. I think out of all the characters, I was
the dumb robot.
Yeah, I think I identified most with him.
No, it was a good. I think it all comes together quite well. Like, it's that thing. It's like, you understand why action scenes have to be shot and choreographed the way that they are.
Yeah.
Because just filming a scuffle from a particular angle and just being like, there we go, they had a wee fight.
Yeah.
No, it's one of the things that suffers. But I always like sometimes I like to think of Doctor Who, like, especially Robots of Death, is very much, it's kind of like a play. In fact, Robots of Death is so much like a play that it has been adapted into a
is that right?
stage show. Like, wow. I think when I say that, I mean it's like some fans got together and made a...
Oh, okay.
But like, there is a stage version that was made...
I hate the fans, so I couldn't care less. Only official stuff for me.
Yeah, no, I think it's very, and I think like the studio acting, the style of acting and something like that has to be a bit more theatrical because you're with film. With film, the way that film is shot, you have to be as subtle as you can, like the slightest, But when you're on stage, you're communicating.
Yeah,
you're
projecting
to everyone, and that includes your actions and mannerisms. And again, we're talking about the small TV thing, and there's a lot of that going on. So it's very, very theatrical and big and
very much so.
Yeah, and I think it pulls it off really well. And I feel like giving you something like Robots of Death is cheating a wee bit because it's one of the ones that's. I mean, I'm going to have to do this a lot, but it's one of the ones that's generally considered to be one of the best ones.
Yes, but I mean, you'll have a hard time winning anyone over with the worst episodes of Doctor Who.
That's true. Yes. So, okay, why don't you lay down anything else that you liked that I missed?
I really liked the very end where they were like, right, well, that's that. And Leela's like, should we go and check on the survivors? Nope. Get in the TARDIS. We're out here. I really liked that. It was like, not even going to check they're all right.
I know.
Like, Doctor, this pure character of love and,
I know.
And now he's just like,
it's kind of, it does show that side of him who's like, he's constantly moving. And he's not, again, when it comes to later Doctor Who, they start to kind of go into why he does things and why he is the way that he is.
Yeah.
But it's very much just showing that side of him where he's like, he's there for the adventure and the story and the mystery and he's not really there for the people.
Yeah.
He's just like, right, let's go.
He's there for a laugh, aye. And if you want to come with us, on you come. It's no skin off Manos, I guess. Do you know what? Do you know what I missed most out of everything?
What?
The Sonic.
Oh,
the Sonic.
What, the screwdriver?
Where's the screwdriver? Does he not have it back in the day, or is this just a new thing?
He does. He just doesn't have it all the time. It's like in New Doctor Who, they use it a lot.
To just like get us through this door, right? Oh, thank God you've got that.
No, there is no sort of screwdriver in it.
I thought maybe that was just something.
There are periods where it just doesn't get used at all, and I'm trying to remember if he did have it around then or not.
Yeah, because I didn't know if maybe it was really that's just a David Tennant thing for all.
No. The sonic screwdriver first appeared with the second Doctor, where he actually literally used it to unscrew some screws.
Oh, wow.
And then it's sort of, they started using it more and more. In fact, they had the problem that they had in the new ones back in the day, where it got to the point where they started relying on it too much. So they had an episode, there was a fifth Doctor story where it just gets destroyed, and he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna have to do something else now."
Oh, but no, came back,
and then it came back.
I think loves it. One of the annoyances, like being again to bring up Transformers, but in the comics, like they're doing at the moment, done by IDW, and they're really good. Like people have been saying, like even if you don't like Transformers, you'll like these because they're such character pieces, and they're so well made, and the art's so good. And it's been winning awards left, right, and centre. But that's like one of the characters. It's a clear Doctor Who homage where they have this spanner that does all these wild and different things.
All right, okay.
Aye. And as soon as that happened, I was like, fuck, this is like one of my favourite things, and you're pulling this pish into it. Like, just don't. And then thankfully it's been dialed back, like heavily dialed back, but I was like, come on.
There's a couple of things in, like with the tech in Doctor Who, obviously the TARDIS. I think one of the things that writers always struggle with is like, if they're all when they're all in danger, it's like, why doesn't he just leave?
Aye.
They always have to come up with a the TARDIS gets moved.
Yeah.
It doesn't get moved very far.
He does find it as well, and then it's just like she's no there, so he's like, oh God, right, fine. But you just get the impression that he could go if he wanted, but he's just enjoying himself. He's just having a good time.
No, totally. I mean, I guess that. I mean, that is a big part of it. What you were mentioning earlier. So, what do you think of the? It's really weird. That comes from a really weird period of Doctor Who, where the TARDIS set looks like a big cupboard.
Yeah,
and that's unusual.
Yeah,
because they go back to old TARDIS set after that, but it kind of represents that whole period of Doctor Who is very kind of gothic. It's
quite
there's
understated.
a lot of kind of, yeah. There's a lot of that draws a lot of influence. Like people always compare it to things like Hammer horror and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
There's a lot of really great stuff, and I guess the TARDIS, the control room, fits with that very well.
It feels like they were like, oh, it's bigger on the inside. It's not that much bigger on the inside. Like it's less impressive to me when you're like, like you go into like the Tennant era and it's like a live and kicking set. It's like this was just kind of like the size of the room we're in now. Really, I'm like,
It's still. I mean, the TARDIS is one of those things. It's like you're given this impression that it's enormous. It's sprawling, and there's episodes where people get lost in it and stuff like that. Right. Okay. But you only ever see one room.
Right.
But it does make that thing. It's like when I don't know if you had this, but when you watch Star Trek and they showed a bit of the Enterprise you'd never seen before, and you're like, ooh,
what's that?
This is exciting. There's a bit of that going on as well.
I mean, when I first saw Chief O'Brien's gaff, oh my god, so good.
I know. There's no such thing as magic.
Exactly. To the rational mind, nothing is inexplicable, only unexplained.
So, explain to me how this TARDIS is larger on the inside than the out.
All right, I'll show you. It's because insides and outsides are not in the same dimension. Which box is larger?
That one.
Now which is larger?
That one.
But it looks smaller.
Well, that's because it's further away.
Exactly. If you could keep that exactly that distance away and have it here, the large one would fit inside the small one.
That's silly.
That's trans-dimensional engineering, a key Time Lord discovery.
Okay, so give me
5 Sonics out of 7.
I don't want a rating.
No.
Just
I was very surprised in how much I liked it. I think a lot of it was to do with Tom Baker, though. Mm-hmm. I really liked. I think I very well may look at more Tom Baker episodes.
Okay.
I don't think it's really. I know that I still will not enjoy the more modern stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
But I am more keen to go back to that. I definitely want to see him picking up Leela.
Okay,
I want to see that happen. Yeah. And maybe even the episode after. Like, what's the after this? Oh, I'm springing this on you.
I'm gonna look it up.
Those Time Lash boys
they'll be raging at me.
No wonder, and with good cause. But I'm keen to see more of it because there was just that nice, breezy. As you say, it felt a little like disposable TV, and it might be sacrilege to say that to when it's considered a classic Doctor Who episode.
Yeah.
But it did feel like I can just pick it up, enjoy it, and then that was good, and that's the end of that.
The episode after is The Talons of Weng Chiang.
Okay. Do you suggest
which
actually watch it?
Which again is high up on the...
Okay.
But there's some questionable makeup
okay.
decisions going on in terms of what would be acceptable now. But anyway, it's a good episode. Plus Tom Baker and a Deerstalker Sherlock Holmes get up.
Very nice. Yes, I've been into that. I do enjoy Holmes.
Is there anything you didn't like?
I mean, it's kind of hard for me. It feels like almost you're picking on some indefensible thing.
I think you've done a very good job of being very open-minded about it and dealing with what it is.
Yeah, I think you've got to take it on face value. Remember what time it was made. Again, I don't feel a lot of times that we give people from decades by enough credit in terms of what they do. Like, that's quite progressive for those primates back then in the 70s, But
I think sometimes we give them too much credit as well. It's like, no, we could read books back then. You had phones back then.
Aye, can you believe it? But no, I think I had a really good time with it. I think the biggest praise I could probably give it is that since I was a little boy, I've been trained to want a plastic representation of the characters I like.
Right. Okay.
I like Transformers, so I want Optimus Prime. I want these I want all these toys based on that, and I was like, I don't know what that was. I would quite like a wee robot of death.
They're good. I know it's the genius of the robots of death as well, as they do look like action figures.
Yeah, that's it. I was looking online. I was like, should I get? Can you get them? Maybe order one.
Yeah, I think you do get when you get the wee corpse markers with them as well.
Nice. I can see that's it. That's
bike reflectors.
That wee fandom thing where I'm just like, oh, nice, you get the wee markers as well.
Totally. Okay, cool. So you had a good time with Robots of Death, and you fancy watching more. So I consider this first attempt, or this first experiment, or whatever the hell I'm going to call it, a success.
You do that if you like. I still hate Doctor Who, Richie.
It's fine. I'm just happy that I found one that you liked.
Mhm.
That's actually all that I wanted, and I wanted to enjoy it with you, which I have done.
Excellent.
One of your robots could have done it.
And that's your great theory, is it? Well, my friend, robots cannot kill. They're prime directed.
I know. It's the first program that's laid into any robot's brain, from the simplest done to the most complex supervoc. But suppose someone's found a way of bypassing it.
I asked some people on Twitter for some feedback.
How do you think that went?
Probably went really badly. Let's
Yeah.
have a look. Okay.
Nobody better say anything snide about Doctor Who.
I'm sure they won't. Okay, so Bob the Scutter asks, if you don't like Doctor Who, why did you agree to be subjected to this?
I am a big fan of Richie Morgan, and
That's a good answer.
when he calls, I will always answer.
No, Jim, I'm not. Let's Hug Bros asking stupid questions.
Jim, come on. This
He's
is
asking
serious.
questions about Transformers. This isn't a Transformers podcast.
I don't know.
Are Transformers robots or aliens?
They're both.
Right, okay, good. Cormac Donegan asks, Richie, what methods of coercion are you going to use to get the more vocal Doctor Who dislikers on the show? There are people that I'm just like, you're just not going to bother.
No, but I mean, I think I'm quite good in that terms. It's your first episode. You want a quick win. You want somebody who's soft.
Yeah.
And ultimately disposable.
Like, yeah.
You don't want somebody who's actively toxic.
Someone who's like an episode of Doctor Who. So there, I'm not going to get the real haters that are just going to be like.
Did I mess up earlier by saying it was disposable? Did that offend you in some way?
It's fine.
Good.
Let's Hug Bro asks, Richie, most of your friends like robots of some description. Will you eventually run out of robot-centric episodes? I read this earlier and I was like, I think he underestimates how many robot stories of Doctor Who there is. There's certainly more robots Doctor Who stories than there are friends of Richard Morgan. Nickel Hay asks, how long do you think you'd both survive as a companion?
It's difficult. I don't know. Like, does he have male companions?
Yeah.
Yeah? I didn't know that.
Sometimes. Not often.
Yeah. I don't know, actually.
That's a good question. I think I'd be done for like.
Well, there's a lot of running involved.
Aye.
And I wouldn't even run for a bus or a train.
That's
I'll
a
be
good
like,
point. I wouldn't even die. An alien wouldn't kill me. I'd have a heart attack. My heart would explode. Barry asks, what is Doctor Who's real name?
Is that a thing?
Actually, there's like the.
Come on.
And the Doctor isn't his name, obviously. It's a title he's given himself. And there's
Given himself?
Yeah, it's a bit. No, you're right. No, it's a bit. Yeah.
Jeez.
It's a bit high and mighty. And there was like a whole series about like no one must know his true name.
Okay.
And all that sort of stuff.
Or what?
And then it was a whole red herring. I don't know. It was. I don't really know how that turned out.
I'm strangely like interested in that.
It was kind of. It was always about. It was about like what is the Doctor's name, or the name of the Doctor and all that sort of stuff. And it ended up being a big lead up to revealing John Hurt as the War Doctor.
Okay.
And the idea was that the Doctor's name is it's a title, but it's a promise. And because John Hurt's Doctor wiped out the Daleks and his own race,
okay,
he broke. He wasn't a Doctor,
right?
So he is not. He's kind of like he decanonized himself,
right? Okay,
because he's technically the 9th Doctor, but he's not.
I'm sorry I asked.
Yeah, no, I'm sure. It's got Danbot 007 asks, what wood panel console room, final verdict, fucking nightmare to polish. I'd say it would be a nightmare. Oh, I don't really think about that.
I don't polish my own house. I'm gonna polish in there.
Do you think there can't be a lot of dust in the TARDIS? Surely, it's a super space vehicle that maybe doesn't need dusted.
That's that. I mean,
we covered the wood TARDIS, but I kind of like it, but I'm glad it went away.
Yeah.
Owen Mackie Gamezilla's asking daft questions about the Doctor's willy.
What does he say about the Doctor's willy?
Does the Doctor piss? Imagine how long you'd have to spend adjusting to having a new willy after regeneration.
It's a fair point.
Well, I mean, yeah. No, I'm sure it's an issue.
Why isn't there a female doctor? Was Catherine Tate not the doctor for a bit?
No.
Am I thinking of something else?
No, you're just getting confused with a thing where... You asked me a question before and you didn't like the answer.
I guess that's true. I should not delve into these things.
I was talking about this with someone recently, actually. Like, it's obviously it's not canon, but there was a Red Nose Day special Doctor Who where Rowan Atkinson was the Doctor.
Oh, shit, I bet that was hilarious.
And at the end of it, he regenerates like several times into various celebrities, but the last Doctor he regenerates into is Joanna Lumley.
My goodness.
But they're doing a lot of establishing that, like, throughout the show, there's lots of things where Time Lords regenerate into women and men, and he's just not done it yet. Pablo asks, what is he a doctor of? Well, the answer that he gives in the show is everything.
Ah.
Stuart asks, if you could be killed by any robot, who would you pick and why?
I would quite like to be crushed under the sexy robot heel of a baddie Gundam lady. If that's at all possible.
You channeling Guy Woodward. I'd like to have my balls kicked off.
Like Carter's Greys from
to be
Iron-Blooded Orphans.
And what if someone was driving Optimus Prime and he turned into... Would they be crushed to death?
Yeah, but you'd have some hard on. What a way to go. That's how I want to go. Change my answer, please.
What if you were... There was one that turned into a tape, wasn't it?
Yes.
What if you were trying to tape the top 40 on a Sunday and...
and what?
And he broke your tape deck?
No, I wouldn't like that. Not my tape deck. Fuck. Say for that.
I don't know what kind of robot I'd like to be killed by. I'd like to be assimilated by the Borg Queen.
Oh. 7 of 9. We've been talking about this recently, about how I feel really bad about any time I put on I think of what something a wanker would say. I put on an English accent to distance myself from it.
It's a bit radio DJ at the same time, though.
Yeah. One for the dads.
Or football commentator.
Yeah.
Cormac Donegan asks once again, Richie, what's your favourite story from your least favourite Doctor? Gav, which Doctor is the sexiest? Canon only.
Do you want to take that one?
What's your favourite story from your least favourite Doctor?
Hardball question.
Say with your least favourite Doctor. Oh, your least favourite.
What about him with the hat? The straw hat? The kind of fat one. What's his name?
Yeah, I think you're getting two mixed up. You thinking of Colin Baker?
Yes, sorry. Yes.
I don't know if he's my least favourite. Like, see, the thing is like, what with the advent of audio stories and all that sort of stuff, like, I love all the Doctors, so try to decide which one I love the least. I mean, if I say Colin Baker, no, maybe it is Colin Baker.
Paul McGann?
No, see, I love Paul McGann.
Yeah, okay.
I love Paul McGann. No, actually, Colin Baker was kind of interesting because so it's maybe Peter Davison. Okay, so my least favourite Doctor is Peter Davison, and I would say that my favourite Peter Davison story is Caves of Androzani, just to be boring and predictable. But if it was Colin Baker, I would say that the Revelation of the Daleks.
Samesies.
Right. Okay. So and
sexiest Doctor. Well, I wouldn't say I fancied Tom Baker, but I wouldn't necessarily. I don't think I'd be able to resist.
You wouldn't say no to a cuddle.
No, I certainly wouldn't, and I don't think I'd be able to resist physically either. Is what I'm trying to say.
I don't like where that's going.
You could do what he liked. Is what I'm saying. Transform with me inside him.
Okay, so that's all of the questions.
That's all the ones we can actively say.
So, how do you feel about being the first guest on I Hate Doctor Who?
I also want to say thank you for having me on, but I do feel like history will be the real judge on this one.
I know, it's like you get to be the first episode, so it's probably the one that people listen to before they go, I'm not going to listen to this again. But at the same time, the ones who get to do it with me further down the line are the ones that are, are on probably a slightly tighter show.
That's true. I mean, we've been playing it fast and loose, but then again, who knows? Maybe someday down the line, and I come back with my Doctor Who T-shirt on and all that.
Maybe in 20 years' time, people do podcasts about podcasts.
That would be incredible.
And we can look forward to being
the legacy of I hate Doctor Who, a real Wild Stallions moment, where it just defines a generation.
Exactly. It brings Doctor Who haters and Doctor Who lovers together.
It actually has.
It actually has done. Yeah.
Look at that.
Because we generally hang out in separate.
100% separate.
This is literally just a way for me to get to talk about Doctor Who in front of my friends with it and being like,
going to shut up about Doctor Who.
Aye.
Not going to shut up about Doctor Who.
especially now that the Time Lash lads have moved to London and abandoned me.
I think that was it's a bit of a kick in the balls, isn't it? Both of them moved to London.
Both of them, shortly after I was on an episode. Anyway, Gav, do you want? We should mention that Gav does a lot of podcasting of his own. Would you like to plug that?
Sure. I do the very unpopular GeshCast gaming podcast, available at geshcast.com, and I also do a Supernatural Entertainment System, which is a paranormal themed podcast. So listen to them and enjoy them if you like games or ghosts.
I was going to say, could you're like, I do a gaming podcast, and I was like, of course he does a gaming podcast, and then you say, I do a Supernatural, you're like, wait a minute, what?
Well, yeah, we do a show that is all about like weird news.
It's worth mentioning that when you do the gaming podcast, the best bits are when you don't talk about games.
Yeah. Well, what do you know? When did you ever listen to my podcast?
I listened to some of it.
Well,
anyway,
I will.
So please, if you've enjoyed Gav's chat, then check out his other podcasts.
It's not likely, is it? Come on.
Well, apart from anything else, like you've already mentioned that you hate the entire audience of the podcast.
Aye, that's it. I imagine it's just Doctor Who fans listening to this.
Nobody else. Okay, and if you want to find Gav on Twitter, he is at GeshGav.
That's
all
right.
one word. If you want to find me on Twitter, I'll give you my Doctor Who account. I've got an account that I made just to talk about Doctor Who because I used to tweet about Doctor Who quite a lot on my main account, and every time I did it, sometimes I'd delete them because I was like, I feel like I'm doing it too much.
Right.
And then I made a separate account, and I was like, I felt so free.
Never be afraid to be you.
I know,
Richie.
but like you would tweet about it, and people would be like, Doctor Who's shite. I'm like, all right.
I think I may very well have been guilty of that once or twice. But it becomes a bit of a thing where you're like, when someone you know and like is like, I really like this, suddenly you got, being an arsehole, the urge to go like, that's rubbish.
You do. I get it. No, I mean, I'm guilty of that as well, so I can't really even play the victim here. But so my Twitter, Doctor Who Twitter handle for this podcast now, I guess, is at Bobby_Davros.
That's good.
Which I'm amazed wasn't taken.
I thought that today. Even
incredible.
That's a high level enough Doctor Who gag for me to get. And I was like, how do you get that?
So go and follow it because it doesn't have many followers, and I like to tweet about Doctor Who.
Well, it's fair though, and I will say also, if anyone does want to follow me on Twitter, remember, if you're thinking right now, come on and slag off Transformers, please remember that I can dish it out, but I cannot take it. Please don't slag it off, man. I can't take it.
So thank you very much for listening. Come and find us on Twitter and say hello if you don't know us already. And I hope this has been as interesting an experiment for you as it has been for me, Gavin.
It certainly has. I really can't thank you enough for opening my eyes.
Okay. I wish I had something sufficiently sort of Doctor Who-y or something to say other than bye.
Bye.